Hey YouTube, welcome back to my series on how to develop iOS apps with Parse in Swift. In my last video, I talked about maybe doing some type of algorithm or AI that calculated the user's input in our rock, paper, scissors game and tried to beat the user. So, based off prior inputs, calculate what the next move might be. So I did a little bit of research online, and right here in the editor, you can see up top here, there's a site, rpscontest.com. People can post their code and algorithms on there for rock, paper, scissors specifically that tries to calculate the user's input and beat them. And I found one by Flight Odyssey that was originally coded in Python, and it had an 83% win rate against users out of like 350 wins. So it was really good. It was, I believe, the top algorithm and code that was on there. So what I wanted to do was translate it into Swift for the video and kind of modify it. There's a fellow developer that helped me translate this into C sharp. So thank you, Chetan Patel. We got this into C sharp, and then from there, I was able to translate it into Swift. Swift being such a new language, it was a little difficult. If you guys have ever worked in any other language like C sharp, you have different methods that you can, call on a array. We'll take out like a substring. What I wanted to do was add those in to Swift because they don't have all of that right now. Some of it I just took from Objective-C, but most of it I had to create some extensions. So two files that I have extensions and I have my RPS engine file. I'm going to have these uploaded to my repo on GitHub. I'm going to have the link in the description below. So all of my code is there from this whole series. Make sure you guys go check it out. When you guys look at this algorithm and RPS engine, feel free to, play around with it, modify it, tell me things you like or don't like, comment in the section below. I just wanted to put it out there for everybody because I thought it would be really cool to put in our app. And the extensions here, some of these I wrote, like I said, I have length here, so you can calculate the length of a string. So I have my extension, and we're extending on strings. So it basically just takes characters.count, which is what you have to do in Swift. So it's just easier to do dot length, and it's just as readable. And then I had to do a substring, which basically you pass in a start index and the length, and then out of that whole string, it returns a substring. So from and to a certain amount of letters, it'll return. So we needed that for the game. And I have slice and rfind, index of, a bunch of these that you'll find in here. I have one array extension at the bottom, and that's just for a random selection out of the array. And we needed that as well. So if we go back to RPS Engine, all of my properties are right up here in this section. You'll notice that I'll start putting in mark. Basically, it just marks your section and says what this section does or includes. And it's pretty nice to have in code. When people look at your code, one, you want it to be readable, and two, you kind of want to let the person reading it know what's going on. So you can leave some comments through mark here and just say what is below and then try and make everything readable. So all of my properties are here, and then you have my primary method. So in my class here, I have getMove. It's going to take in an input of a string, which is the user's selection, and then it's going to take on our UISwitch, which we're going to put in here soon. And that's just a Boolean value of true or false. Is the AI on or off? And then upon that, it's going to look at those, see if they're true, and then it's going to go through our algorithm here, and it's going to calculate based off of the previous round or the previous player's move. So right off the bat, the very first thing that we're going to look at is just an empty string because the player doesn't have a previous move. So I'll show you guys that in our game model here, how that's going to be passed in. If we go down to the bottom here, I have a few helper functions, and we have random range and a random number, 0 through 3 specifically, because we only have R, P, or S, so you don't want to go any higher than that. And also you'll notice that I have an else statement here that just returns a possible move from RPS randomly. So this is going to be used, one, if the string is empty, so on the first move it's going to be random, or if the AI is turned off, every single time it's just going to be a random choice, just like we had before. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in our UI switch to our main storyboard here. So head on over to main storyboard, and you're going to see that I kind of changed some things around. I added in an image in the background, I changed my font, did a lot of restyling of the button and the whole layout. So like I said, you guys can do the styling on your own. It's really simple, just using the side toolbar over here to go through and just modify everything. So that's kind of what I did, and being from Columbus, I'm a huge fan of Ohio State, and I went with some red and gray here. So just did a little bit of a theme, and I also changed my launch screen too, which you guys will see when it starts up. And I just added a cool image to the background here and kind of faded in my name with resume, so when somebody opens it, it says my name and my resume. And I added some copyright down at the bottom here too. So let's go back over, and here we want to add in a UI switch. So let's see if we can find the switch here. And here it is. So we're just going to drag it on over here, and I think I want to put it right above the button. So I'm going to actually move this up a little bit here, and add in another label up here to say what the switch is for. So I'm just going to copy that, bring it down here, and I'm going to say turn game AI on for a challenge. So let's go ahead and move that up just a little bit. Keep that right under it, and now we have our switch here as well. Now I'm going to have to redo the layout, and I seen somebody comment about the auto layout here, and if you click this triangle down here, every object you have in your view, if you click any of these, it's going to apply it to all of them. So one quick thing you could do, you could always click add missing constraints, or you can reset to suggested constraints, and it's going to automatically do everything for you. And the only thing I can tell you is it works pretty well unless you want certain things to be attached to a closer side. So let's say I want this to be closer here than up here. You want to make sure some of your leading lines are attached to that object. So I want this attached to down here, not up here, and then let the auto layout of adding missing constraints do the rest. So I'll show you how that works here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here for, I'm actually going to delete this one and delete this one as well. And I'm just going to click down here to reset to suggested. And that one's good. This one I'm going to do as well. So let's do add missing, and now we're good on that one, and looks like we're good on that one as well. Okay, so I'm going to change this to red to match my layout. So I changed the color here, and everything else is going to stay the same. So now I got to create an IB outlet, so click the double rings up here. We're going to close this, and we're going to click and drag over to create the outlet, and we're going to name this game AI switch and hit enter. And now that is in our main view controller. So I'm going to close this, and we're going to go into our main view controller. And now we have our variable here, game AI switch. And the next thing that we want to do is move a few things around. So when we initialized our game model here, I'm actually going to take this and move it to the top of our view here. So I'm going to do it right under here, or actually I'm going to do it in our properties. So let's just do it right here. So we're initializing it right here, which you want to do right when you load, right when you go into the main view controller. The number one reason why you don't want to put it in the play button like we had it is it will constantly reinitialize and take out all of our values. So you don't want to do that actually. So it was okay with what we had at the time, but now we actually want to save some of the variables, new variables that I'm going to show you in our game model, and we don't want those reset. We want to store those until the next round. So we want to initialize it right here. That way it's done, it's not going to change, and then from then on, all the values will continue to be set in there. So I moved all of my properties up here. So I have my get app score and get player score with the getter and setters, and I moved that up here with my game choice array. So the other thing that we want to do is go into our play button touched, and what we're going to do is add in a getter for the game AI switch. So go ahead and type in var, and then we'll do game switch position, and that's going to be a bool and curly brackets. And then you know how we have our get and our set. This is going to be a shorthand for get. So we're going to actually omit the get statement, and we're just going to do return, and we're going to return the game AI switch dot on. And dot on is a Boolean value that's returned based on the state of the switch, so if it's on or off. Just end it with the ending curly bracket. So anytime you get the value for game switch position, it's going to get the value from game AI switch. Let's space this out. So the other thing that we have to do is add in our AI check. Let's go ahead and hit comma, and we're going to put in game switch position. And let's just do AI on colon, and then once we add in our game model, this parameter, then this will be fine here. So let's go back into our game model. So in our game class here, we have our stored properties at the top, and we are going to add in some new ones and change some of these here. So result text is good. I'm going to rename app choice text just to app choice, and we're going to add in another variable here, player previous choice equals, and then just empty quotes. This is going to be an empty string. This is what we're going to be passing into our RPS engine the very first time. And from there on, we're going to store the value of whatever the current one is for that round, which will be passed in the next round to the RPS engine, so it's always the previous choice. And I don't need these ones here, player wins or app wins. And what we do need though is I'm going to bring up our choices tuple. We're going to redo that up here just so we know it's a stored property. So we're going to do choices equals, then we have our parentheses, and inside we have our string initialized, comma, string initialized. And so what this is a tuple, and a tuple is multiple properties or parameters in a function or method or property. So instead of just having one, you're going to have two or maybe three or more, and that's called a tuple. And you just enclose it with parentheses. So anytime you call choices, it's going to take in two variables here. So that is what we had down here. So we can take this let away and have it as choices. And this app choice here, we don't need this anymore. And we need to leave these here because we're calling app choice, which is declared up here, so we can't move these outside. Everything in our switch case is good as it is right now. So let's add in our AI here. So AI on is what we called it, colon, and then we're going to do bool. So that way our MainView controller takes in a bool. So this should be okay. And let's go back to game. Okay, so we still need to initialize the RPS engine. So let's add in private let RPS engine equal RPS engine. So we initialize it here at the top of our game class. RPS engine takes in an R, a P, or an S. It doesn't take in rock, paper, scissors. So we need a way to translate the choice that we're passing in from our player and then back from our game to translate back and forth between rock and an R, paper and a P, and scissors and an S. So what we're going to use is a getter and setter, and this is going to translate back and forth from a full word to a letter. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to do private var translate choice, and that's going to be a string, and then we'll say get, and we're going to do a switch case in here. We're going to switch on player's previous choice, and our first case will be rock. Make sure it's capitalized and exactly the same as how you have it below, or what you're passing in from your MainView controller. And we're going to have the colon, and we're going to return R if it's a rock. Another case, we'll do paper, colon, and then return P as a string. Next we'll do scissors and return S. And you always have to have a default case to make your switch exhaustive. So we're going to add in default, and I'm just going to return player previous choice. And you want to come down to the last get curly bracket and say set. And we're going to do another switch case here. And this time we're going to switch on new value. And if you remember a getter and a setter, the getter is going to return a new value to its setter. So we're just going to take the variable called new value, which is default. So you guys can change this if you want. You can declare, value, new value. You can name it whatever you want here if you guys want to declare a actual variable name. But by default, it's new value. So that's what we're going to be switching on. And in this case, we're going to have R, because that's going to be returned from our RPS engine to the translate choice variable. And when we pass it in down here, we have rock and paper. So we need a way to translate it back so that it can compare correctly in our other switch case here. So let's do a colon, and then we're going to assign this to app choice. and it's going to equal rock. In our next case, we have P, and that we're going to do the same thing with paper. Another case for S, and app choice equals scissors. And we have another default case, and app choice by default will make it whatever you want. I'm just going to say rock by default. So there we have our variable translate choice with a getter and setter. Now let's assign something to translate choice here so it can translate something. So let's space down. So we got to add in our variable that we just created. So translate choice, and it's going to equal RPS engine, the one that we just created up top, the one that we initialized, dot, and then get move, and it's going to take in an input which will be player previous choice here. We need to pass in what our AI Boolean value is, so we're just going to say AI on, and there you have it. So it's going to pass in our string and our Boolean value from our UISwitch. And the one thing that we have to do still is make sure that player previous choice equals player choice. This way the player's current choice will be passed into the previous choice, so when the next round comes around, it's going to be passed in here to the get move to the RPS engine. Let's go ahead and just test some of this out to see if everything's working correctly. So let's set a breakpoint here on translate choice, make sure it's being passed in correctly and into our RPS engine. Let's head up here and set a breakpoint right at our if statement at the beginning. Okay, and there's one last thing too. If you go back to the main storyboard, I had a feeling this wasn't turned off. So let's make sure that this state is turned off. We don't want it on when the user logs on. We want it to turn off or be off so that the user can turn it on if they choose. So let's go ahead and hit run. So we have all of our breakpoints in place. All of our code is finished. Let's see if everything's working real quick. Okay, so I have my main view. Looks like everything's in place. I can't click the shoot button here. So we have our UISwitch here. So let's go ahead and turn it on. Make sure that we're getting that true value passed back. In our select, let's go ahead and select paper. And now our shoot button is available now. So we can go ahead and click shoot. And we're going to hit our first breakpoint here. So let's just hover over AI on, and you can see that the value is true. So the AI is on, not that it's going to use it this round because we're passing in an empty string, but at least our value is correct. So let's go ahead and hit continue here onto our next breakpoint, and it's going to hit our if statement, and input you can see is an empty string. AI is true, but I have a double ampersand sign here, so they both have to equate to true to even go into our engine. So what you're going to see is it drop down to our else, and it's going to return the random from possible move, which is up here, and it's just an array of RPS. So let's go ahead and hit continue. And it looks like the app chose scissors by random, so the app wins. So let's go ahead and let's try again. Let's do rock and hit shoot. AI still turned on, and I'm just going to take this breakpoint away. Let's go on and continue. Input, and it looks like it's paper. It's not supposed to be paper, it's supposed to be a P. So that's wrong. So let's go ahead and stop debugging here. Go back into our game model, and see what's going on. So we created our variable. We have player previous choice here, and we're passing it into our get move, but I don't want player previous choice being passed in because it's actually being assigned here and converted. So I actually want it translated before I pass it in. So let's go ahead and do translate choice here. This way, when we pass it in, it's going to call translate choice, and it's going to look at player previous choice and go through and then return RP or S to translate choice and be passed into our get move. Now, our get move is going to return a string which will be set to translate choice. So that's where our setter comes into place. And it's going to set whatever is returned, an RP or an S, to the full string name, rock, paper, or scissors. And that's going to be applied to app choice, which we're passing into our tuple here of choices. So choices is going to have our app choice and our player choice. That is the current player choice. And then down here, it's going to run through choices and compare the two. So let's see if this works a little bit better. And it should act as we're expecting it to here. So let's go ahead and let's do it with the off on the first try here. Make sure that it's throwing an off, or throwing the value of off. So let's hit shoot. And the AI on is false, and this should be empty. Okay, so it's working. So let's hit continue here. And looks like it's a tie. So let's try rock. And let's turn the AI on and hit shoot. And also below you can see your variables as you go through and see what's assigned to them. So here you can see input is a P and AI on is true. So this is really helpful down here too. As you go through each line, you can see what's going on and what numbers are set. So let's go ahead and take away this breakpoint because everything is working correctly. So let's hit run. And as you can see down below here, you can see some of my output I have. And the winner is player here, which is going to show up. So let's just try and do this a few more times here. So it looks like I won that round. So let's try scissors. And it's a tie. Let's do scissors again. Okay, it's another tie. And let's try rock, because it picked scissors last time. The app chose rock as well. So let's try paper. So the app chose paper. So let's throw it off and try paper again. The app chose scissors that time, based on me clicking twice on paper. So if they chose scissors, last time I chose paper, let's try scissors, and maybe it'll choose paper. The app chose rock, okay, so it wins. So let's try rock ourselves. And the app chose paper, so it wins. Let's try paper because they might choose rock. Okay, they chose scissors. So it's not really letting me win very easily here. So the app chose rock, beat me again. Let's choose rock ourselves. It's a tie. And the app chose scissors, so I finally won that one. So let's do paper. The app chose scissors. As you can see down here, it's keeping track of all of our numbers, all of our player choices here, and it's just putting them into an array here. So this is just kind of what's going on behind the scenes of the RPS engine, but really cool stuff here. It really is hard to beat. I think I've calculated in between the high 60 to low 80 range of win results, playing up to 50 to 100 times, just literally sitting here trying to beat the app cognitively. trying to think about what the app might choose based on my previous results. And if you go ahead and just keep clicking one time, you're going to see it's like a 50-50 here. And then eventually the app's going to say, hey, this idiot's just picking paper all the time, so I'm just going to pick scissors and beat him. So as you can see, it doesn't really pay to play stupid, because the app will be smarter than you. I'm glad I got this done, and I'm really excited that, I'm going to put it out there for you guys. The code's going to be on GitHub. Make sure you check it out. You can download it. Like I said, if you guys modify it, do anything to it, let me know your feedback. And this is something that you guys can really work on and kind of see how Swift works a little bit more. So this is a little bit more advanced stuff. And also, I did another login screen with animations, and I'm still playing around with some of the animations with the gravity and collisions. And I have some basic animate with duration functions that I'll show you guys in another video as like a little bonus, but I'm still working on the dynamic animations. And I'm going to keep working to bring you the skills page next. So in my next video, I should be working on the skills page here. We'll be uploading resumes, clicking a few things, and I had another request for querying and storing into parse, which I really meant to do, and I just haven't done it yet. But I might try something here with like the scores, where in my next video at the very beginning, I'll probably do some type of storing of, say, like your last score or something like that. Maybe you got like a high score and you can click save and it's going to store it right to our database. And then maybe on another page you can click retrieve, or you could just retrieve it over here, and once you click on that button, it's going to query and pull from our database. So a couple things that I want to show you guys hopefully in the next video. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm really glad I have a lot of viewers here joining and really diving into Swift with me. It is a really good language, and if you guys want more, go to Apple's website. They have so many videos on there, from WWDC to just videos that they do from different conferences or themselves, showing you how to do so many things. And I'll encourage all of you to check that stuff out and learn Swift. It's a great language. It's very readable, and it is strong. And it's just going to get stronger as it continues to develop and grow here. So until next time, I'll see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye, YouTube.